Welcome back to the MVP podcast, the people show where we talk about the most valuable players in the world of sports. My name is B-Man. I'm doing another solo episode and I am going to be talking NBA. And if you're not clued up with what has been going on, let me tell you that the free agency has started, the NBA draft has happened, trades are happening right now, so there's a massive boom, loads of changes in teams, different personnel, different coach, just a lot has changed. And let me tell you right now that I am not happy, man. The NBA, I'm not happy, man. Let me first off, let me just say, you should just click the like button right now. You should just get it over and done with and just click the like button right now. You're watching it anyway. Just click the like button, it helps. And if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button too, it helps, right? So let's go back to the NBA now, right? So let me first off by talking about the first thing that happened that didn't really sit well with me, and that's the fact that Chris Paul ended up at the Phoenix Suns. Now some of you might be saying, well, no, that's actually a really good trade for Phoenix Suns, and it is. Chris Paul is an unbelievable player. I'm just looking out for Chris Paul here. Chris Paul is a player that could elevate any team that he went to. It didn't matter what team ended up trading for him, they were going to be better. It is not a coincidence that every time Chris Paul joins a team, he instantly makes them a lot better. So, with that said, the Phoenix Suns have got an unbelievable player, but Chris Paul is that good that at some point, I hope that his brother wins a ring. And the only way that he could have won a ring is if he ended up in a situation that was good for him. Say your Miami Heat or the LA Lakers. Like, these are teams that are set. They were built. They're ready. The Phoenix Suns ain't ready. Chris Paul cannot be the piece that takes you over the edge. Chris Paul, at this stage of his career, needs to be an additional piece next to your centerpiece. He cannot be the go-to guy. Now, some people might say, well, actually, Devin Booker is the number one guy, but Devin Booker hasn't proved anything yet. He might have done so in the league during the regular season. He might have even done it in the bubble. But we all know that the playoffs is a different type of animal. And Chris Paul really needed to be on a team that was already good to go. For example, the Milwaukee Bucks trade that people have been talking about, that would have been the perfect situation for him. So that's the first thing that upset me. The second thing that upset me is the fact that the rest of the league let the Lakers get that much better. Montrezl Harrell, Wesley Matthews, Dennis Schroeder, they got KCP back. They're most likely going to get another player. They got Marc Gasol now. At what point does the rest of the league look at it and say, nah, you're not having that player. We'll do whatever we can to make sure that he doesn't go to him so we don't make you too strong. No. This is what teams used to do when LeBron was at Miami. They sort of half did that when he was at Cleveland. People tried to do Golden State Warriors where they just tried to take the players to make sure that they didn't become even better. But man, all these other contenders are probably looking at that thinking, man, how did the champions get better? How did they get better? They're arguably going to roll out a squad that features Schroeder, KCP, LeBron, AD, and Marc Gasol. That is wild. Now, the Montrezl Harrell signing, I think a lot of people had an issue with it, but can I just say, it doesn't really matter. Rivalries like that don't even exist in the NBA anymore. So when Pat Bev tweeted the news of him like breaking out, I think he had like some emojis, he was basically unhappy. The point was, how can you join the enemies? Man, you ain't enemies, man. You ain't enemies, man. Forget that. The guy went to get his money, but he also went into a better situation. Personally, I believe so anyway, because the regular season and also the playoffs kind of proved that really it wasn't happening for him. So I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy with him joining them. What I'm not happy with is that the league allowed it. Montrezl Harrell is an unbelievable player, and if LeBron and AD can unlock that, and we're talking not the 2020 Montrezl Harrell, we're talking 2019 playoffs Montrezl Harrell. I'm talking 2018, 2019 season Montrezl Harrell, the one that had something to prove. Now, some will say, well, actually, he was the sixth man of the year, right? How could he even be considered for sixth man if he wasn't good enough for the team? And you're right. He was the sixth man. But throughout the season, you could already see that there were a lot of problems going on with the Clippers. People thought that there was an extra gear that just never happened. And the way that it all exploded, I'm not surprised he left. Maybe I'm a little bit surprised that he ended up at the Lakers. Okay, maybe I was a little bit more surprised they ended up on the Lakers. But nevertheless, it is what it is. I'm just upset that teams didn't do anything about the fact that the Lakers were just getting everyone that they wanted. It's like they got a whole list of players and they just started ticking them off. If they also let them get DeMarcus Cousins, man, that is... If he can stay fit, he won't be DeMarcus Cousins from like 2016, 2017. But DeMarcus Cousins can still demand a lot from opposition teams. So if they let the Lakers sign him, then I think the league has done a terrible job. So let me now talk about the next player. That the player didn't upset me because the player got the bag. And I am all for player empowerment. Let them get the money, they deserved it, regardless. Even if certain players came off of careers. I always say, judge them for the longevity. It's kind of like Dwight Howard winning the title. A lot of people might say, well, he didn't really contribute enough to be considered as like the proper winner of your like LeBron and AD, because the title always gets assigned to someone. But the way that I looked at it is that Dwight Howard did enough throughout his career to earn this ring now. He might not have been the all-out, the Dwight Howard that we've known, that dominated the league defensively, offensively. He's not that guy anymore, but nevertheless, he did enough to deserve one throughout his career. And that's why I'm okay with it, right? So the signing that bugged me, so we're going free agency now, yeah, is Gordon Hayward, man. Like, okay, I'm okay. Get your bag, get the money. I'm all for that. You get your money. But, like, the Hornets, like, what? You're looking at that thinking, wait, why on earth would the Hornets offer him that kind of money, right? Why would the Hornets offer him that kind of money? So there's a lot of ways that you can look at that. Number one, and I said this in the previous podcast as well, right? When I was talking about Orlando Magic trying to trade for Russell Westbrook, right? I was like, okay, cool. Well, next free agency is actually going to be massive. If let's say AD, and he's going to re-sign a contract, but let's say he opts in on his player option, right? That means he's going to be a free agent next year. LeBron could opt out of his contract at the end of this year and could be a free agent. Kawhi Leonard can opt out. Paul George can opt out. Even Giannis can become a free agent. Now, look, these are all absolute superstars, right? So I said, if I was an NBA team and I knew that, we could possibly sign one of these players, then you don't sign anyone now and you make sure that you have enough cap space to try and get these big marquee players next summer. Now, where does that leave some teams? Because if we're being honest, some of the teams will not even get a sniff of these superstars, right? These small market teams will never get a sniff of these superstars. And that's something that the league can't do much about. I mean, where would you rather be? Would you rather be in LA or New York or Miami? Or would you want to be in Milwaukee? Or would you want to be in Charlotte, for example? You wouldn't, right? And it's not just about where you are. It's also about what you gain out of it. You could market yourself a lot better in a big market team, right? The league puts you on a bigger pedestal when you're playing for a big market team. You get marketed more, you get more ads, and now your face is out there. Now you're going to get more sponsorships, and that's, for a lot of players, that's like a massive drive, is to go to these big market teams so that they can earn additional capital, like additional money to what they're earning in the NBA, right? So a lot of these smaller teams don't really get what they want, really, like, which is these marquee signings, these superstar signings, which means that there's 2 or 3 ways in which they can actually build their teams. And I'm talking about the smaller teams, which is one, just draft really well and do something that the Golden State Warriors did. Now, the Golden State Warriors are not a small market team, but nevertheless, the way that they build up is they picked up Steph from the draft, they got Clay from the draft, they got Draymond Green from the draft, they even got Harrison Barnes from the draft, which is a massive piece to getting KD on that team in the first place. So one of the ways that you can make a team better is through the draft. Another way that you can actually get a player is through trading, because the truth is, a lot of players don't really have that much of a say unless they've got a no trade clause. So they can actually go out and trade for these players, and the players will just have to just bear the brunt of it, basically, right? And the last thing that they can do is they can overpay players. Now, you can't overpay a superstar because they're going to get max regardless. That's why they always end up on the big market teams. If there was a rule where and this would never happen, by the way. It would be really stupid. But if one of the rules was, we are going to give these small market teams a little bit of extra help by maybe increasing the cap, for example, so that they can offer a little bit more money, for example, right? But that will never happen. But if that was an option, then that would actually help them. But for the most part, they'll end up overpaying players, giving these superstar wages when they're not really on that level. And that's what the Charlotte Hornets did. They ended up paying Gordon Hayward a bag. Now, Gordon Hayward was actually really, really good last year. Like, it was genuinely really good. Like, I was impressed. Even having come back from that major injury, it was a big deal. And then mid-season, he got injured again, injured his hand. I think he broke it. But he came back strong. So I get that. But now you've got so much money tied up into this player that isn't really the piece that you need. And that's what bugs me. Like, why would you offer him that much? I'm pretty sure that you could have offered less and he would have taken it. Unless there was something out there where he was going to do a sign and trade. I personally believe that he was going to end up at the Pacers, which rumors were that he wanted to go to. And there was a lot of talks about trades involving Victor Oladipo, trades involving Miles Turner. And I think for the Boston Celtics, that would have worked out better. But he ended up chasing the bag. And I just don't know if that sets them up for the future. Now, you can actually put a massive positive spin on this, right? You could actually put a positive spin on this. Let me tell you how that could work. Now, one way that you can look at it is you've got a lot of young players. So what you want is not a superstar player, but you want a very good player to come in and mentor them and kind of teach them how to act and how to conduct themselves in the NBA. And Gordon Hayward is perfect, right? He doesn't really get involved in no politics. He just stays under the radar, just plays basketball, gets on with this thing. Like, he was so under the radar that before Boston Celtics actually signed him, like, people didn't really rate him high enough, right? Although at Utah Jazz, like, he was a superstar, but he really didn't get the credit that he deserved for all the things that he did for Utah. But maybe that's the positive spin, which is maybe they just needed a guy like that in the locker room so that he can kind of guide a lot of these young players that they've got, right? And they also signed, they drafted LaMelo Ball, they've got PJ Washington, and they've got some really good pieces. So maybe, perhaps that's what they were trying to do. Are they better than they were last year? A bit better, depending on how LaMelo Ball works out and how well Gordon Hayward actually gels with the rest of the team. I think they've gone a little bit better. Are they better enough to then now all of a sudden say, like, we are going to possibly challenge? Then the argument is they're nowhere near that, right? But that was another thing that upset me. And do you know what? I'm just going to continue a little bit of a rant. Give me another minute to talk about small market teams, right? What else could small market teams do to try and attract some of these bigger players, right? And usually it's not through free agency. It's more like the Kawhi Leonard situation that the Raptors were in. If I was running a NBA team, I would just build the squad to have, and I need to be very careful how I try to explain this, otherwise it won't make any sense, right? Which is, I would have all the pieces ready. Now, I've got it now. I would set my team up so that all the pieces are ready just for the superstar to join and for it to be complete. Have your bench ready, have your role players ready, have your starters ready, and then know that when you're trying to sell it to these superstars, just say, look, this is everything that we've got. You're the icing on the cake. The LA Clippers did it when they ended up getting Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Like, they had a really good core already. All they had to do was add superstar to it. Now, obviously, it defeats the point because the Clippers are not a small market team. And could you argue? I don't know if Toronto Raptors is considered a big market. Considered in Canada, maybe so. You could consider them a big market. But let's just say if they're not. Let's say they're not, right? They did the same with Kawhi Leonard. Like, they had all the pieces ready. They just needed a superstar, and that led to a ring. So if I was like a small market team, and that's exactly what I would do, man. I would just go out of my way to build the squad so that it's ready for a superstar to come. That makes sense, right? Kind of Miami Heat sort of did it as well, like build a team and then just add the superstar, the final piece that will just kind of catapult you into the next level. Something that the Milwaukee Bucks have been trying to do like over the last year, which is also something I really should rant about, which is Bojan Bogdanovic, but we're not going to get into that, man. I think I've talked enough for now. So guys, if you liked this video, you should really just like it, man. You should really just like it, man. Just do it right now. Let me give you time to do that. And now that you've done that, man, thanks so much for listening to me. And I will be back again soon with another podcast. So, peace.